refund True Green Chemdray.
Okay, so I have two refunds on the agenda tonight, and this particular one is the, as you said, True Green Chemdray, and that was just a duplicate payment. True Green paid, and then their Chemdray, who also does I guess like their mortgage company type, did the payment. So we're reimbursing it back to the company, $22,189.33.
Okay, and that's, we'll go to consent agenda, then it comes to finance because it's over $10,000.
Correct.
Okay.
So we just make recommendations?
We're just going to do it, send a consent agenda.
The consent agenda.
Right, yeah.
So
okay.
I'll make a motion to send to the consent agenda for our town council meeting this coming Monday, a tax refund made out to Chemdray LLC, care of Development Associates,
Associates, probably?
Associates, I guess, is that what that is? Okay. Never seen it abbreviated that way, but,
It's new.
for $22,189.33.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Move on to item 3, discussion possible action tax refund Elm Hill Realty.
Again, a refund over $10,000 to go to consent agenda. This obviously is a larger amount, $166,000. I attached the section of the court stipulation. This is an item that went through the appeals for assessment and reflects back to the 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021 grand list years. So what we do with these stipulations is you go back and we adjust each year, and then any excess covers the following year and so forth. As we're in a new reval, they don't carry the credits forward. We pay any remaining balance, which in this case came to $166,940.
So this report and recommendation, so it's not, there's an error here though, right? It says this is due to overpayment in connection with refinancing, but this is actually in connection with the settlement of an appeal.
It is the settlement of appeal. I think the creator of this had a template and did not adjust it, so.
Looks that way.
My apologies,
Well, I guess they did overpay, but.
But, well, it says here, an overpayment in
Yeah.
connection with refinancing.
it's not
which-
refinancing.
Yeah.
That was the explanation for the previous one.
Correct.
This,
Yes.
so this was a tax appeal claiming that the assessment was excessive. This was a stipulated judgment to resolve that. And now, basically a retroactive refund for overpayments claimed over the last several years?
Yes.
How does that affect the budget, general fund? That, I mean, that's a sizable dollar amount.
Yeah, it's a terrible effect, honestly, from the finance point of view. I mean, I dread when we have these that continue into to several years, because obviously they can accumulate to be very large. So what you'll actually see is that's going to be, and I think when we look at the tax report, you'll see that these are going to become credits on collections, especially with these being prior years. Our prior year collections budgeted for probably about $500,000, something like this would really just keep us in the negative as we continue to collect. So they are difficult. We don't budget for them. We try to put in a cushion in the current year. You know, for example, this year we have a slight cushion for possible revals, but when they continue out that way, it becomes a bit of a budgeting nightmare.
So what property is this? It's called Elm Hill Realty LLC. What property are we talking about?
Oh, I don't know if I brought that with me. Oh, 45 Elm.
45 Elm, what is that?
Is it the nursing home? I don't recall it.
I'm trying to get a handle on what kind of property it is, because these are big numbers for only
It-
2
it's
years.
very- right.
67,000 claimed overpayment for 1 year and 99,000 for another. So we're looking at some very significant,
It is, and in
Investments
fact,
here.
if you flip to, I think it would be the third page in what you have in the stipulation, you can see that the the difference in the original assessment and what the settlement was. So we're looking at, for 2 years, a reduction of $3,150,000, and then for 2 years, $2,275,000. $2,275,000.
Well, that's the reduced assessment amount, that's,
Correct, so
That's
what
not
it does,
the
it reduces
reduction,
the
right.
assessment, we recalculate the tax going back to the 2018 grand list.
Yep.
Create a new, they've overpaid, that overpayment rolls forward, and then ultimately, the net effect is this refund.
So what happened with the years following that, so 2022 and 2023, how's that being handled?
They will be on the new reval, so they would have to go back and go to court if they wanted to go to assessment appeals on that. So
But-
this is a settlement for the reval of the prior, like those 4 years, 2018, 19, 2021.
So what about for,
Not, well, you can see they actually went into court, settled that on 2022. So they did not make the adjustment for the 2022. Again, grand list, you keep in mind that that's always suggests the year prior, so we're actually functioning today in grand list of 2023.
so this was a stipulation from 2 years ago,
Correct.
and
And then we get the corrections from the assessor after they've gone through and made their adjustments, and it's, again, they're rolling forward a couple of each year.
my question is, with respect to the 2022 grand list, which is still under the old assessment, this stipulation addresses the first 4 years of that old reassessment, but doesn't
Correct.
address the fifth year.
Correct.
So what's gonna happen with that? Are we looking at another potential six-figure payment to them for the 2022 grand list?
And since the stipulation didn't address the 2022, the answer to that would be no.
Well, I'm looking at paragraph number 2 of the stipulation for judgment. It says they stipulate and agree that these reduced values for 2021 shall be carried forward to all subsequent grand lists without change until the next revaluation. So it looks like that number for 2021 would also apply to 2022, because the reval starts with 23, right?
Correct.
So I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop here. This stipulation, this dollar amount that we're authorizing here is only gonna carry us through 21, but there's gonna be another ask, I assume.
Or did they adjust
The
the bills?
adjustment had happened
They adjusted
before
the
that.
bills in time for the
Correct,
20.
because if you
So
see
they
that's,
did. Okay,
correct,
so they
yes.
paid the
I'm sorry,
adjusted
I wasn't
amount.
following it, yeah.
They paid the adjusted amount for the 2022 grand list
Correct.
under this stipulation. So
Yes.
what they're waiting for is the
Yeah.
payments for the 2 previous years.
Correct.
They had already paid.
All right.
Do the auditors make us reserve, in cases like this, make us any reserves or not material enough to do that, or?
There's actually quite an involved calculation on trying to do the reserves, and so because this one's coming out in this year and the previous years, so we do. You'll actually, you're right, that's a good question. So there is an adjustment, so you'll see a reserve for uncollectible or an allowance is basically how we set it up. And because of this and the prior year impact, that we did have an adjustment for close to $400,000 on that. So it does reduce the collections because it's setting aside an allowance. Of course, we're going into this current year, budget year 24-25, we don't have any appeals, so the reserve is not as high. So for 23-24, we had a reserve of almost $400,000.
They don't make you like restate those prior years' financial statements. I mean, it's not material enough to do that. I would
Yeah,
think.
well, if you look in our financial reports, you'll see we have our financials, which is basically budgetary, which we often see. And then you'll see the lower half, which they're going according to GAAP, and that's where you'll see those type of allowances that are not like hitting your budget, but it's definitely showing that there's an impact on there. So it kind of moves it as a revenue and puts it off against an expense. So it's more of an internal audit adjustment.
Well, with that, I'll make a motion to send to Monday's Town Council consent agenda authorization to make a tax refund to Elm Hill Realty LLC for the total amount of $166,940.25.
Grudgingly, I second.
Any further discussion?
The only thing I would say, I know it's on the consent agenda Monday, or that's what we're talking about, but I imagine some of the councilors are going to want to understand this, so is there a way to,
Well, Alan, I guess, Alan, explain it in your committee presentation, I guess?
Jeff will be explaining on my behalf Monday, but yeah, you could explain it.
Yeah, okay, I'll just do it, yeah, because that's before the consent, right? The
Yes.
committee reports, okay,
Yeah.
I'll do it there.
Because, it goes to consent, I guess, under the preface that it's really a court
Sure, nothing to do
direction.
about it, I mean.
So, yeah, we have to pay it, but given the explanation in the
Fortunately, right.
committee report would be.
So I'll just discuss it, and then I may bring you in to
That's
fill
fine,
in some of
that's
the
fine.
areas there.
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks.
And we did confirm that that was the Apple Rehab.
Yeah, yeah.
Is the
that's- yeah.
location.
The power of Google. Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Move on to the next item, discussion, possible action, resolution award a bid, firehouse roof.
That's correct. So we did do a bid for Firehouse 2 roof replacement, and we had actually 4 bidders come in, and the lowest and qualified bidder was Imperial Company for $141,000, and we're making a recommendation to award the bid to Imperial for the $141,000.
And where is this this was in the
It's
current
in the-
year's budget?
Correct, it's in the CIP for facilities.
And how did this compare to what we were budgeting?
We budgeted 140.
Wow.
I would say the other bidders were in the ranges of 180 to 190. So we were extremely fortunate to take this particular bid.
Is this a contractor that the town's worked with previously?
Yes, yes, they did, so they were happy with that.
Okay.
Okay, I will make a motion to send to the consent agenda for Monday's town council meeting, resolution to award to Imperial Company Restoration Contractor, Inc. of Cromwell, Connecticut, at a bid price of $141,000, the roof replacement to Firehouse Number 2.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I was waiting for something there, Bill. Thought you had something. Next one is discussion, possible action, resolution, Castle Tower continuation.
Yes. So as you can see by the second page, we were approached by Crown Castle to either continue our extension of our lease that we have with the towers. There's 2 towers we have involved. Or to take an option, as they called it, B or C, which is an easement purchase. After having conversations, town manager and I with them, definitely with either option B or C. If we went with the perpetual easement, then any revenues that we get from the rentals on those towers would go back to Crown Castle and wouldn't become town revenue. So we're taking about $200,000 a year from rentals, and we are recommending that we do the extension of the lease for the 30 years. This is the previous lease we had an extension was also the 30-year, but it was just an adjustment a few years ago.
So when you say an option for a perpetual easement purchase, so how would that work?
It was actually going to be a purchase, as I say, literally, the dollar amounts, whether it be the 251 or the 314 over installments. So their plan was to give that dollar amount to the town, and we would forego the use of the towers, and they would take, I guess, in a sense, the ownership and also any revenues attached. At this point, we have the towers and are renting them out with any of the other, whether it be Verizon, AT&T, whoever puts anything on the towers, they end up doing rental through us. So we were not interested in selling. They wanted to purchase, and we were not interested for that reason to sell our easement rights.
Now, one of these, I believe, is at the firehouse on New Britain Avenue?
Correct.
Or
and
behind the
others-
firehouse?
Right.
And where, the other ones, I know it's on it says Old Main Street. Is that
Yes,
the?
yes, it's right over by the police station, if you kind of
Okay.
take a look out there.
So the 15% term escalation, so is that 0.5% a year, or?
Per year.
Yeah.
And I guess, I imagine we don't have a lot of offers on anyone else wanting to purchase that, but that would be a restriction.
I mean, is that, I have no idea what market is. That's the way market
Right,
is.
I'd say it's higher than market. However, again, if that's anything, it'd be a restriction on anyone else that was offering to make a purchase to us. But I think at this point, it's probably in our best interest to continue that source of revenue.
So just so I'm clear on that extension, so currently it's $17.49 a month. The summary says 15% term escalation, so that monthly income that goes up 15% per year?
So I think what they were telling us that escalation, that if there was an opportunity for someone else to do a purchase or a sale, that it can't exceed the 15%.
I don't understand.
And my apologies, but I don't do very well with that either. But I think the term escalation puts a restriction on the future sales prices that we would have. And I think if you would like more information, it'd probably be best if I come back with more on that.
Yeah, I was reading that, and again, it's a summary, but that the monthly rate would go up 15% over the 30-year lease, basically breaking it down to 0.5% per month, per year, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But,
We don't know, we don't
We
really
don't
know
know
what
if
that
that's
is.
true, though.
Okay.
So, yeah, if we're not sure what exactly that means, I think it makes sense to table this until we get some more clarification.
Or can we
That's
put,
fair.
or can we put on the town council agenda as new business? Or, like, how soon does this have to be done?
They're quite anxious to go ahead, even though, as I say, I mean, well, this is going to be into 2029. They've been, actually had hoped that we would make our decision at the council meeting that we ended up having canceled. So they've kind of been on this side waiting for our decision on this. If you don't mind, I would just like to research the term and if we want to try, put it as an action item on
On Monday? So this is a 30, just before we get it, so it's a 30-year term. It says expires 2059, but we're not in 2029 yet.
Correct, that's what I was saying. We're presently in the 2029 contract. Their
So then why is there a rush for them to
Well, as I
sign?
said, their urgency is they want to know if we're interested in doing the sale, which we are not.
The sale, which means where they get to buy themselves out of the lease by acquiring a perpetual easement.
Exactly.
So a one-time expenditure, or either in installments or a lump sum, and then they no longer have that long-term obligation over the 5 years, the existing 5 years plus another 30 on top of that.
Correct.
All right. Well, all right, I understand they're anxious, but I think we need
We need some
better
clarification.
information. So what we're looking at right now here is, I assume the analysis is, so the $17.49 a month, is that we're receiving right now, or is that just at the start of the renewal term?
That's just the base, and like I said, in addition to that, because they have different equipment that's placed on that, I think from Castle themselves, they're about half of the $200,000 in revenue that we're making on a yearly basis.
I'm just looking at this, the option A, option B, option C. And the first entry under option A, lease extension, it says $17.49 a month.
Correct.
My question is that what we are receiving right now?
We are receiving that and all additional rentals.
So what additional rentals on top of the $17.49 a month are we talking about?
So if you look at one of those towers, they kind of look like a Christmas tree. So it's the tower, the base, and then any additional equipment that's on there. To the point, as I'm saying, we're making about the $200,000 for probably about $12,000 to $15,000 per month from other companies, be it AT&T. We've got Verizon on there. We have some from Castle. So for anyone that takes space on the tower, that's revenue for us, rental revenue.
So if we
From
grant,
them.
so if we were to grant this one tenant, give them an exclusive easement, we would have to take down all those other pieces of equipment.
I would
have to
imagine
get
that,
out of all those leases.
or they would take over and get the rental income. Our understanding is that if we had the easement, the income would become theirs. Would they keep them all on? I would imagine they would.
So why do they think we would take $251,000 for one-time shot, we make 200 grand a year. What's their, why did they think we would do that?
Well, when I said that's absolutely ridiculous, in all honesty, the individual said, I agree.
Okay.
Well, I think we can safely say we're not gonna do option B or C.
No,
No, we are not.
Yeah, so by the process
not.
of elimination.
If they wanna know that, you can get to say maybe say unofficially, you don't see that happening.
no, it's option A, because that's how the resolution was written,
Yes,
is for option A, but it's understanding what the 15%.
with
Yeah.
Term escalation
pending
is.
clarification of the escalation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so do I need to make a motion just to put it on the agenda Monday, or can you just do that?
Well, I think it should come back to finance. I don't,
Or you want to come back? So now
I
we come
don't
back this
understand, I don't
month.
think this is that urgent, considering the contract doesn't expire for
2029?
4 years.
Yeah, well, that's that's,
Agreed.
5 years.
yeah.
I think we have time.
So we can table, yeah, I was gonna say, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, and
I will.
And just give us that fuller information about the other leases, the impact on the other leases if we were to do, just so we have a thorough explanation of these options, even though, it seems like a no-brainer, but I do feel that we need to understand the options a little bit better.
Agreed.
Very
Okay,
good.
so we just won't take any action, and we'll put this on the
Do we
agenda.
need to
That's fine.
make a motion to table it, or can we just table it?
Do we need to table it, or just not take action?
We'll just take no action.
No action,
I'll bring it
okay. All right, that's all our discussion and possible actions. We'll move on to the Special Revenue Fund update.
Okay. So, starting the new year, new balances all carried forward. Not a lot of activity. We're already into August. I'm pointing out, obviously, for item one, the asset forfeitures, there was a purchase of tasers for about $28,000 in there. Probably more like 21 as I look at it. So there was a purchase there. I know we're trying to keep everyone in the, aware of anything greater than $5,000 out of these, just to be more transparent of the activities. Also, we've got I've got it as item number 2, pointing out on police grants. We got the opioid funds. Human Services putting on their Palooza event coming up on the 19th. So there's about $20,000 to be coming out of that particular fund for that. On the item number 3, ARPA is no longer. We are at a 0 there. That last payment, $57,000, was to the RECOR, the license plate readers. So for the following year, we'll have to either, pick up that in general fund or some other funding source. So we committed ARPA for 3 years. This will be the last payment toward the license plate readers. And we have on the parks grants, the pickleballs payment showing up in there.
Should we have a moment of silence for the demise of ARPA?
I know,
We're gonna miss them.
we used it very well.
Any questions on the special revenue?
No.
All right, we'll move on to the update on reserve for capital and non-reoccurring.
Again, not a lot of activities up through the end of August. You can see just a little bit of interest coming in and small expenditures on finishing up reval. We do point out that our internal transfers, the $325,000 on the section for schools, that's the $125,000 that came from Board of Ed, where they had $249,000 remaining at year end. As well as the $200,000 we had in the 23-24 unexpended by the BOE.
And I don't think we need to discuss the $500 and $800 transactions, so if there's no questions, we'll move on. State aid to municipalities, 24-25.
Okay, we received the town aid road first half payment, and we've also received the motor vehicle reimbursement full amount. So we are on target with all of those collections, nothing that is, that's late, and all coming in as planned.
So that's $175,000 for the town aid road
Correct,
and $928,000 for the motor vehicle reimbursement.
yes.
Okay.
Wasn't there a gap in the funding, Mona, for the reimbursement from the state for the fire calls on 991?
Yes.
Okay, so is that money that's the, what's the status of that? There was a gap there, like, I guess the funding ran short, and I can't recall if they were gonna make it up, or if we were just gonna forego some of that money.
They were just going to forego it. Actually, if you don't mind, I mean, it's on the special revenue side. Let me see if I can point out where that one stands out for you. And it's actually right below that ARPA line. We're so excited about the zero in ARPA, but the item right below it for the fire. They stopped reimbursing for any of the calls as of May of last year. We still had 15,000 unexpended at the time, so you'll see that carry forward. And they just started doing the reimbursement for any new stops this year. So that lapse in time, the May to June, there was no reimbursement for any calls that occurred then. Starting July, reimbursements are starting to come through. So when you see that revenue of $9,000 on that line, that's just the beginning of any July calls. They tend to run about closer to like a 60-day turnaround. So this is why in August, toward the end, we're starting to see the July calls get reimbursed.
And it's $750 per call?
500.
It's $500 per call. Thank you.
We can't go back to collect the May and June ones, you're saying?
No.
But at $500 a call, it shows the volume of calls that we're
Right.
responding to on the highway.
Right. And I said they tend to run about 60 days behind, so this is actually probably maybe a week and a half of activity for the month of July.
It's a lot of calls.
It is.
Okay. Any other questions for Mona? No. All right, monthly financial report, pre-audit.
Okay. Change my gears. We have a little summary in there. I wanted to point out that on the tax collector's report, we had mentioned about what happens with these refunds. Just wanted you to see that probably on the top section, there's a negative on there, that negative $39,272. And if we're looking at last year at this time, the prior year collections was at 162. That's basically what you're seeing is the impact of doing these refunds. So we're already starting the year in the negative for that. Also on the tax collections, just current collections as well. That's at 55% versus the 56, which is just our benchmark for 3 years. So that is behind, and we'll continue to watch that. Delinquent bills are going out, I believe, next week. So hopefully we'll see something pick up on that. But we're hoping that's not going to be a trend that follows us throughout the year.
Mona, do the delinquencies tend to be heavily concentrated for motor vehicle? I mean, the great majority of the real estate related, I assume, is coming directly from the bank, from escrow payments, so that's, not much opportunity for delinquency there. So when you see this, like, almost a full percentage point drop-off here, do you have that broken down between real estate versus, motor vehicle and business equipment?
I don't, and I do recall as you're asking that is something that I was going to bring to you, so let me make sure that I put that on the list. But you're right, many of these with the real estate will come through just through the mortgage companies, and we haven't seen any of them come in as delays, so it would be either in the motor vehicle or the personal property.
Thanks.
But I can give you more detail on that. I'll make a note for myself for the next one. Otherwise, revenues are on target. Building department, conveyance are doing well. I had a couple of notes on just items that tend to look like they're in high percentages. Workers' comp, that's an offset. Revenue will come in the offset to the expense. And we did receive under miscellaneous revenue. You see a nice little jump in there for $23,000. That's our Kerma insurance carrier. We get our distribution from them each year. And this year it was $23,000. Actually less than our prior year, which was $50,000. But That's based on activity of all participants in the consortium. As far as expenditures, again, early to see anything large jumping out at us, but I wanted to point out we are under budget for patrol. We still have a number, or at least a few vacancies in that department. We've got a couple that we're going to have actually tomorrow, the swearing in, so we're filling them quite quickly. Tree service is up, but that's more of a seasonal thing that we'll watch. And otherwise, I pointed out for building repair, just looking at it as a line item, that's a maintenance contract that has been coded as a repair, so I think that's misleading and wanted to point that out. That is a repair contract.
What's the account number for that?
That should be in the object, 5430, and let me see here.
Oh, I see building repair at the bottom
You see
there.
him?
Yep.
Okay. On the equipment. And other than that, just a little bit being spent in capital so far. That's for the road paving. We have the road referendum, but we also have some of our in-house paving. We did some work at the schools when we fixed the area where they had portables. So those don't go on road referendum. That's the type of item that would go in our general fund paving area, as well as a lot of curbing that goes along with the road referendum. And we show 1 month of expenses for education.
All right, any further questions for Mona on this? No? Okay. Do we have anything for other, Mona?
I had great news on my other. I didn't bring anything, but we just found out that we got our second budgetary award from Government Finance Association. So 2 years in a row, budgetary award. So
So does that mean we get another sticker?
we're going to get a sticker.
All
yes.
right.
I got the email, so I'm just as happy without the sticker, but yes, we will.
Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
yes. Nice to be recognized. If there's anything else for other?
That's it.
Okay. Make it.
Yep, motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.